welcome back to the fourth episode in the Football Betting Tips and Strategies series. Today we are looking at the upset, finding high value by backing the heavy underdog in play. Betting on a heavy underdog may not seem like the most logical thing to do. They're priced as underdogs for a reason, and that's because most people are expecting them not to win. But what I'm going to show you in this episode is that in some circumstances, you can really boost your earnings from football betting by backing the underdog to win. Again, like in other videos, this is perhaps easier to explain with a real-life example. So I take you to the 18th of January 2020 when Newcastle were at home to Chelsea. Now, looking at the stats of the game, and this is a game that I watched live, so speaking from personal experience as well, Chelsea were dominating the game. You'll see there that they ended the match with 70% possession, 19 shots, 4 shots on target, and corners and etc. Now, whilst Chelsea were dominating the game, you'll see for all that possession that they had, they'd only recorded 4 shots on target. And what we're going to look at is, what we've learned before in terms of analyzing the game beforehand to determine which side is coming into it in better form, but then how the odds moved for both teams to allow us to enter the market at the best time to make maximum value from the upset. So, as we've learned to do in the analysing form video, looking at Newcastle's form coming into this game, so the last 5 games before the Newcastle-Chelsea game, they had a 1-0 home win against Crystal Palace, a 4-1 away loss to Manchester United, who, arguable if we'd class them as a top or a medium side, but I think, Man United away, you'd probably have to class them as a top side. Then a home loss to Everton, followed by a home loss to Leicester City, and then an away draw to Wolverhampton Wanderers. Now, the results aren't great, so it's, if you just look at it on the surface, 1 win, 3 losses, and 1 draw. But in that run, especially especially excluding that win right at the beginning, they've played some very big teams: Manchester United, Everton, Leicester City, and Wolves, who they managed to get an away draw against, who were very strong in the Premier League last season. Conversely, looking at Chelsea's form, so before the 1-0 loss to Newcastle, they came in on the back of an away win to Tottenham, 2-0, a home loss to Southampton, an away win to Arsenal, and an away draw with Brighton. Now, you'd say that Newcastle definitely had the tougher fixtures in the lead up to this, in the lead up to the Newcastle Chelsea game, and Chelsea have probably got the better form in the sense that they've got 2 big away results against big teams, but then they've also got a disappointing loss to Southampton at home, who Southampton weren't quite the same team that they are this season, and then also an away draw to Brighton. So on the face of it, it seems clear that it would be Chelsea who had the better form, but looking again, as we do, looking into it a bit further, it might not be quite as clear-cut an advantage for Chelsea. And then when we factor in home advantage, which we've also spoken about, and the game being played at St James's Park, then the odds on offer before the game began probably were quite kind to Chelsea. So let's have a look at how the odds opened for the game. So looking at 5:30 when the game kicked off, the odds were as follows. So a Newcastle win was 5.5, a draw was 4.333, and a Chelsea away win was 1.571. So, having just spoken about coming into the game, on first glance it would appear that Chelsea are much more advantaged coming into the game based on form, but then a deeper look suggests that actually it may not be quite as clear cut. So for Newcastle to be priced at 5.5 as the home side is maybe maybe a bit too high. I probably would have put them maybe a bit lower at 4.5, maybe even 5. And you might say it's not a big difference, but it's all these margins which are very crucial when it comes to being profitable in football gambling. So, and the thing with Chelsea there being 1.57, it's not really, I guess, reflective of their odds of winning the game, because the way that the bookmakers have to price their odds, when a lot of punters, which if you just look at the the high level form of both teams, a lot of punters are going to throw money behind Chelsea to win the game. They've beaten Arsenal, they've beaten Tottenham. Newcastle should be a piece of cake for them. And because of the fact that so many people are putting money behind Chelsea, that drives their price down. And conversely, for the bookmakers to actually balance their books, it pushes the price of Newcastle up above kind of their true percentage chance of winning. So already there's some value to be made there. But the whole strategy of the upset is kind of predicated on betting in play, and especially in the second half. And the reason for this is, if Chelsea get an early goal in this game, then the bet is blown out the water. It would have been highly unlikely for Newcastle to have come back from going a goal down. And the reason for that is Newcastle's playing style, especially against big teams, is to sit back, defend, and keep the game at 0-0 for as long as possible. Then within the last 20 minutes of the game, Newcastle will come out more and counter-attack with more men coming forward to try to nick that 1-0 result. So, given what we've just discussed about how Newcastle would set out to try to win this game, given that even after 60 or 70 minutes, as we scroll up here, the game remains 0-0, and it's important to note, because as I've been watching the game live and keeping a track, Chelsea, I think at this point maybe only had two shots on target after 60 minutes of play. They had all the possession, they were recording shots, but they just weren't creating those clinical chances to record shots on goal. So with all of that, at 60 minutes, or let's go to 65, for example, the odds now: Newcastle to win the game at 9, the draw at 2.1, and Chelsea to win at 2.05. Now, what the bookmakers are seeing are that Chelsea are, dominating the game, they've got possession, and that's why the odds on them winning have only moved by about 0.5. But then the odds on Newcastle to win have jumped from about 5.5 to 9, which is ridiculous, because taking into account what I just said, Newcastle's whole strategy is about holding stronger opposition at 0-0 for as long as possible, and then really going for it in the last 20-15 minutes of the game. So knowing this, I think the odds for Newcastle should actually be a bit lower than this. When you take into account as well the fact that the period in the game where the most goals are scored is in that last 15-minute period, as legs become tired, and teams are starting to have figured out how the other team is set up, and the best way to kind of crack open the defense. In terms of the upset strategy, when you have a large underdog in the terms that they're priced, especially before the game, and they're managing to hold out the favorite to a draw by the 60th or 65th or even 70th minute, and the odds have moved up to ridiculously high levels, then the strategy here is to actually back the underdog to win the game. Now, it is a risky strategy, and it's called an upset for a reason, because it's not expected to happen. But with those other factors considered, like the form and the way in which a team plays, especially if they set up very defensively, if you do find a heavy underdog and they're holding out that big favorite, then it's definitely worth putting a bet on the underdog to win. It won't always come in, but because of the level of odds offered here, one win will cover numerous losses, and you only need the win to come in a few times for this to become a very profitable strategy. The underlying thing is, in a game as unpredictable as football, anything can happen. So it never makes sense for the odds to be presented in this way as 9, 2.1, 2.05. No team should ever be priced as 9 or sometimes even double digit figures, because the reality of football is mistakes do happen. And what we see here, look, as you see, as we scroll up, going into the 70th minute, the odds have gone to 10, 11, and conversely, the odds are going up for Chelsea as well. But that's normal with the passage of time. There being less time in the game for either team to win. And what ended up happening? Well, yeah, 94th minute of the game, Isaac Hayden gets the winner, and suddenly you're from your initial bet, you've returned it 9 or tenfold. And just to prove that this isn't a sort of one-off that it doesn't happen. I mean, I know you're football fans, you'll know that upsets happen regularly, but to show how you can make advantage of this in other games, here in front of you are the opening odds for Chelsea at home to Bournemouth in the 1920 season. Now, these odds, opening odds, I slightly understand a bit more. Chelsea being at home and Bournemouth being so terrible last season. But so the odds opened 1.2 for Chelsea to win, 6.5 for the draw, and 12 for the Bournemouth away win. Now, again, if Chelsea score early, that's it. Probably that's game over. But scrolling up here, into the 65th minute, it's still 0-0. And now the Chelsea win is only gone up to 1.8. The draw has gone to 2.4, and the Bournemouth away win is split between, is going up and down between 10 and 11. Now, what this is saying is it's actually gone down from the opening odds, and that is in recognition of the fact that over 90 minutes, Chelsea would probably win the game. But if we restrict the game to, in fact, just a 30-minute spell where Bournemouth are actually going to come out and attack and try to nick the 1-0 result, then that's why the odds for Bournemouth haven't gone up much more. And there is only, I guess, a certain upper threshold to which the bookmakers can increase the odds for a 0-0 game where no players have been sent off from either team. So yeah, at 65, 1.8 for the home win, 2.4 for the draw, and 11 for the Bournemouth away win. What happened in this game? In the 84th minute, I believe, Dan Gosling scores an away goal for Bournemouth, and they go on to win the game 1-0. And that is the upset. So let me know your thoughts. I'm happy to hear them, and let me know any other kind of betting strategies that you want me to cover. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.